it was the worst royal engagement I ever did, a royal wedding I ever did, because Harry was determined to keep the newspapers away from it as much as possible. Everything.
For more than half a century, Arthur Edwards was more than a photographer. He was a silent witness, capturing smiles, flinches, and fleeting glances that the royal family thought no one would ever see. The palace remembered some moments and hoped others would vanish into history. Now, at 85, the legendary lensman finally steps out of the shadows. He carries stories sealed by loyalty and time, each frame a fragment of truth waiting to speak. His voice trembles not with age, but with the weight of secrets long restrained. What did he witness behind private corridors, away from cameras and ceremonial pomp? Moments of tension, unguarded seconds, unscripted reality. And why reveal it now? Who will be exposed as silence lifts? The very silence that generations believed was forever impenetrable. Could these revelations reshape the story of the monarchy forever? Or are they whispers only Arthur could hear until now? A day that tested every soul at Windsor Castle. Step through the massive doors of Windsor Castle, and on that unforgettable day, the first thing that smacks you in the face isn't the grandeur, the romance, or the centuries of history, it's the heat. It hits all at once, thick and oppressive, like being trapped inside an oven that's been cranked up too high. The ancient stone walls, designed to stand against centuries of storms, trapped the sun's fury within, creating an air so heavy it pressed on every chest. What should have been a celebration of love and unity quickly became a grueling test of human endurance. Guests arrived decked out in tradition, not reality. Heavy coats, tailored suits, layered gowns, stiff collars, gloves, and towering hats. Clothes designed to impress cameras, not survive heat waves. The sun showed zero mercy, streaming through chapel windows to turn the air stale and suffocating. Faces shimmered with sweat, makeup melted into brows, and perfume mixed with heat to make the air almost solid. Fans fluttered everywhere, women clutching them as if their lives depended on a single gust of moving air. Men tugged at collars, loosened ties, wiped foreheads, and teetered dangerously close to fainting. Yet the world saw only perfection. Polished smiles broadcast across millions of screens hid clenched jaws and quiet suffering. This wasn't the fairy tale moment the audience imagined. It was survival disguised as celebration. Among those enduring this ordeal was Arthur Edwards, a man who had seen the monarchy's most iconic highs and unflinching lows. Arthur was no stranger to tough assignments. His camera had faced freezing rain, narrow streets, long waits for the perfect shot, and even the torrential downpour at Charles and Diana's wedding. He had captured fleeting moments with precision, soaking wet but unflinching. He had photographed the effortless glow of William and Kate's wedding day, but nothing in his decades-long career prepared him for Windsor that scorching afternoon, the day that shattered composure. "Oh, I was there. I hated it," Arthur recalls bluntly, a hint of disbelief in his voice. The memory still gnaws at him. This wasn't just another grueling assignment. It was the most punishing day he could remember professionally. The heat alone was brutal, but what made it unbearable went far beyond weather. Rain and cold had never fazed the royal family. They were built for conditions. No, this was different. This time, comfort didn't matter. Every move, every detail was crafted for one audience, the world. Watching from afar, every choice seemed designed for cameras, not people. Guests were expected to sit, smile, endure. Cameras captured the elegance while human bodies protested. Off camera, exhaustion mounted, dizziness crept in, and subtle panic whispered through the rows. Even veteran press, normally immune to royal pressures, struggled. Harry had insisted on strict separation, pushing photographers like Arthur back further than ever. Massive 800mm lenses became their lifelines, squinting through heat shimmer, battling discomfort just to capture basic arrival shots. For Arthur, a man who had mastered patience, the conditions made the day far more grueling, the rewards smaller, and the frustration immense. And yet, for viewers at home, the story was perfection. Flags waved, crowds cheered, music swelled, smiles shone, and the narrative of joy played flawlessly. On screens, it looked magical, historic, even effortless. But inside Windsor Castle, reality told a very different story. Arthur's words: a boiling, uncomfortable endurance test. Time dragged. Every second stretched painfully, and the desire to flee grew with each tick of the clock. The irony of a royal celebration. A day meant to celebrate love and unity left attendees drained, frustrated, and miserably exposed. The discomfort hinted at tensions below the surface, unspoken and carefully masked. The polished images seen worldwide hid exhaustion, minor rebellions, and stark contrasts between appearance and reality. Windsor that day was more than hot. It was revealing. Behind every smile and carefully poised posture lay human fatigue, unacknowledged struggles, and a world that prioritized optics over well-being. For Arthur Edwards, who had watched royal history unfold at its finest and harshest, the day served as a reminder: not all that glitters on camera reflects reality. Some of the most telling moments are those hidden from view, where joy feels like punishment, and where a celebration can quickly transform into a survival test. Was that all Arthur witnessed? Far from it. Behind the misery was a carefully orchestrated message of power, hierarchy, and status, one hidden in the seating arrangements. Seating arrangements speak louder than words. The list of names and chairs was not just protocol, it was a roadmap of loyalty, influence, and shockingly, disregard. Those who had given decades to the crown, senior royals, decorated officers, lifelong aides, and trusted servants, were quietly pushed to the back. These pillars of the monarchy, who had weathered storms, rain, and cold, were treated as spectators rather than honored participants. Who took their place? Not family friends or lifelong confidants. Instead, the best seats were reserved for celebrities with little to no personal connection to the couple. Faces like Oprah Winfrey, George and Amal Clooney, and a parade of Hollywood stars and influencers were placed front and center, basking in the limelight as if attending a film premiere. The altar, once reserved for intimate family and faithful service, now looked like the front row of a red carpet awards show. Fame had trumped loyalty. And the message was crystal clear. Arthur Edwards, who had spent decades documenting weddings, funerals, jubilees, and coronations, could hardly believe his eyes. He joked bitterly that he needed a jeep to find his seat, blocked by a crowd of strangers who had more celebrity than connection. Oprah met them once, and she's front and center. It's showbiz rubbish, he said, his words cutting straight to the heart of the unsettling spectacle, the ceremony that felt staged. The discomfort didn't end inside the chapel. Outside, as the carriage rolled through cheering crowds, cameras clicked relentlessly, and photographers strained to capture the moment. The royal couple looked away. The smiles, the waves, the moment of connection never came. Arthur and his peers witnessed disappointment unfold live, the broadcast perfection clashing violently with the reality they endured. Whispers spread among the guests, eyebrows raised, voices lowered. Some called it a networking event, others wondered aloud if it was a wedding at all, or a meticulously crafted publicity stunt. The sacred atmosphere Windsor had nurtured for centuries seemed to evaporate, replaced by energy more suited to glossy magazines and Instagram headlines than tradition and reverence. Arthur's decades of experience, his patience, and his resilience could not soften the blow. The day at Windsor Castle had become a masterclass in appearances over substance, a vivid, uncomfortable demonstration that power, fame, and optics often outweigh loyalty, comfort, and tradition. Reality behind the screen. For Arthur Edwards, that day will remain etched in memory, a stark contrast between the polished story broadcast to the world and the chaos, exhaustion, and subtle rebellion experienced inside. The event illustrated the harsh reality of modern monarchy, carefully curated images, staged spectacles, and the quiet sidelining of devoted servants for fleeting fame. The truth of Windsor that day was simple yet devastating. Appearances ruled over experience, celebrities outranked tradition, and the human toll was invisible to millions watching from home. And yet, within that tension, Arthur saw the unvarnished reality of a royal institution struggling to balance heritage with spectacle. The energy, discomfort, and carefully hidden messages spoke volumes about priorities, influence, and the stark divide between perception and reality. The day was more than hot. It was an unflinching revelation, a lesson in endurance, and a stark exposure of what happens when image triumphs over substance. The sacred aura of Windsor was replaced, just for a day, by a celebrity-driven performance. A day meant to celebrate love instead highlighted endurance, hierarchy, and the cost of perfection in a world watching closely. And for those present, especially Arthur, the experience was unforgettable. For the millions at home, it was magic. For Arthur Edwards and the people behind the scenes, it was survival. The polished smiles, the waving hands, the sun-drenched music, all disguised a reality of exhaustion, mismanaged loyalties, and quiet heartbreak. The sacred, intimate atmosphere of Windsor had been overshadowed, replaced by a spectacle of fame and optics that no one inside could fully ignore. Walking through Windsor Castle that day, it felt like stepping into a world both familiar and alien. A palace soaked in centuries of history suddenly seemed unrecognizable. Where tradition had once set the tone with quiet authority, glamour now dominated, and loyalty, once celebrated as the highest virtue, appeared to have been quietly set aside. The shift was subtle, almost invisible at first glance, but the implications were enormous. It whispered a message that shook the very foundations of the monarchy. Decades of service could be ignored, duty could be sidelined, and fame, global star power, had become the new currency for those who had dedicated their lives to royal service. The sting of it was immediate and deeply humiliating. Guests weren't merely seated further back, they were symbolically shoved aside. To many, this was not a mere oversight or innocent miscalculation. It felt deliberate, a pointed statement that prominence, celebrity, and public recognition mattered more than decades of steadfast loyalty. A royal wedding, meant to honor the past while celebrating the future, instead highlighted fractures that had quietly begun to form. Loyalists felt disregarded, cherished traditions seemed weakened, and for the first time, the monarchy itself appeared uncertain of its direction. Long after the cameras stopped rolling and the crowds had gone, the question lingered in the air. How could a ceremony designed to unite family and honor tradition become a source of division? How did the celebration of vows and heritage give way to the prioritization of visibility and celebrity optics? When a royal wedding favors selfies over sovereignty, what does it reveal about the monarchy's vision for the future? And for Arthur Edwards, veteran chronicler of royal life, did the reception provide a sense of consolation after the indignities witnessed earlier, or did it serve as yet another reminder of everything that had gone wrong? Vendettas and victuals, the reception that missed the mark. The ceremony may have ended, but the unease had only deepened. Guests moved into the reception hoping for a reprieve, only to find that tension had thickened, quietly dripping into every corner of the room. Royal weddings usually overwhelm the senses, long tables groaning under the weight of lavish spreads, silver lids lifted to reveal feasts prepared by master chefs, and glasses endlessly refilled with champagne. In these moments, food is more than sustenance. It's a statement of abundance, confidence, and generosity, a sensory declaration of monarchy at its most secure and celebratory. But this reception told a very different story. Guests were ushered into a space resembling a sleek cocktail lounge rather than a grand banquet hall. The setting looked elegant, carefully curated for cameras and fashion spreads, yet the food itself was painfully minimal. Tiny trays of finger food circulated like a cruel jest, visually beautiful, but almost non-existent in substance. Imagine well-dressed attendees, outfits worth tens of thousands, delicately picking at single bites of avocado toast or microscopic macarons. These weren't indulgences, they were tokens, leaving stomachs empty and conversations awkwardly orbiting around hunger. Arthur Edwards, who had spent decades documenting weddings that radiated generosity and warmth, did not hide his disappointment. To him, these tiny portions were not just minimal, they were embarrassing, even pathetic when compared to previous royal spreads he had witnessed. Charles's weddings, William's celebrations, even Andrew and Edward's largely forgotten events, all had been infused with abundance and joy. By contrast, this reception felt hollow and sterile. Arthur confessed he could hardly wait to leave once the affair concluded, a statement that revealed just how far the essence of royal hospitality had fallen. The press as pawns in a royal chess game. Yet the smallest bites of food were not the sharpest sting of the day. The true bitterness came in the strained relationship between the groom and the press. Traditionally, royal weddings are moments when the monarchy opens its doors to the public through trusted media partners, sharing joy with millions. Photographers and journalists are considered collaborators, not adversaries. On this day, however, that unspoken agreement was shattered. Harry, still raw from what he saw as unfair and often cruel media coverage of Meghan, transformed his wedding into a subtle act of defiance. Sharp glances, calculated avoidance, and deliberate blockades made photographers feel like intruders instead of witnesses. Arthur, who had captured moments of extraordinary intimacy, including images of William's newborn children, left the day without a single meaningful photograph. It was the first time in his decades-long career that a royal wedding produced nothing for him. "I felt we were punished," he later said, reflecting with deep frustration. Arthur understood Harry's anger. He knew some of the press coverage of Meghan had been unfair, but comprehension did not erase disappointment. Instead of choosing grace, the groom's resentment quietly poisoned the atmosphere, transforming a joyful occasion into a silent battlefield. Tradition was replaced by protest, ceremony by defiance, and the wedding, flawless to viewers at home, became fractured underneath. Family rifts and the breaking of tradition. From the carefully staged perfection, cracks soon became visible rifts. What outsiders initially dismissed as a modern touch slowly grew into an open challenge to long-standing traditions. Arthur, who had observed generations of royals closely, had once been hopeful about Meghan's early tours, praising her energy and charm. Many believed that fresh perspective could breathe new life into the monarchy while respecting its customs. Instead, the wedding became a turning point. No longer about blending into the institution while gently influencing its future, it broadcast a bold message: "We are not like you, and we will not follow your ways." Rituals once held sacred were pushed aside, replaced with headline-grabbing gestures that looked more suited for Hollywood than Windsor. Sermons became drawn-out performances, customs traded for moments designed to dominate social media feeds. This wasn't evolution. It was a line drawn in the sand. From there, distance widened. Invitations to historic royal estates, rich with family memories, were declined. Hotels and private security became preferred settings. Warm family gatherings dwindled. Even the most basic connections slowly faded. King Charles, longing to watch his grandchildren grow, often glimpsed Archie and Lily only through photos sent from afar. His first real view of Archie was not in person, but through a press image on a phone, a heartbreak no grandparent should endure. The loss of generational bonds. Even amidst wealth and ceremony, a royal family remains a family, cousins growing up together, quiet holidays, private laughter behind palace walls. These form the invisible threads that bind generations. Arthur mourned the disappearance of these threads. Bonds that once grew naturally over years were denied the chance to flourish. Shared history, a cornerstone of royal life, was being quietly erased. Arthur contrasted this loss against the weddings he had photographed in earlier decades. Those celebrations had warmth, generosity, and genuine connection. Here, everything was polished, tightly managed, and visually perfect, but lacked heart. The celebration appeared magnificent in magazines and on screens, yet up close it was thin, unsatisfying, and carefully curated for optics rather than substance. The day's smallest indignities, sparse food, ignored loyalists, press as adversaries, were symptoms of a deeper fracture. The wedding, meant to unite, instead became a lesson in control, hierarchy, and the quiet devastation of loyalty pushed aside. Windsor had been transformed into a theatre of image over substance, where appearances mattered more than relationships, and headlines mattered more than heritage, when ceremony becomes spectacle. By the day's end, what the world saw, a picture-perfect royal wedding, hid exhaustion, frustration, and invisible rifts. Appearances dazzled, but the reality revealed tension, isolation, and eroding bonds. Arthur, who had observed decades of royal history, knew that sometimes the smallest gestures, the placement of a chair, a declined invitation, the forced distance from family or press, tell far more than the grandest photos ever could. The wedding looked like a fairy tale on camera, yet beneath the surface, it had fractured the family, strained relationships, and eroded the legacy of generational connection. Windsor, on that day, became more than a palace. It became a classroom in optics, control, and the subtle devastation wrought when image triumphs over substance. Even with all its glitter, ceremony, and grandeur, a royal family without genuine connection is still just a family. And for Arthur Edwards, witnessing this quietly unfold, the heartbreak lay not in the spectacle itself, but in the slow, deliberate unraveling of tradition, loyalty, and belonging that had once defined royal life. What made the situation even harder to accept in Arthur Edwards' eyes was the sharp, glaring contradiction he saw between words and actions. Publicly, the message was all about protecting family, mental health, and personal space. Noble principles that should have resonated with anyone who had devoted decades to observing royalty. Yet, privately, Arthur felt these principles were being wielded like a shield, a barrier used to push away family members, while private struggles were repurposed as global entertainment. Pain, grief, and challenges that should have remained intimate were suddenly commodities, packaged and sold to the world. Stories were told, interviews were sold, and personal struggles became spectacles. To Arthur, this was no act of healing or reconciliation. It was an exercise in control. And then came the Oprah interview, a seismic moment that shook public perception and the monarchy itself. For Arthur, it wasn't an honest attempt to mend fences or seek understanding. Instead, it was carefully orchestrated drama, timed and framed to create maximum impact. Accusations, particularly those invoking race, were flung into the global spotlight like explosives, impossible to ignore and devastating in effect. One side emerged as victims, the other silenced, forced to navigate a minefield of public opinion where any response risked appearing cold, defensive, or inadequate. Arthur called it a stunt. In his decades of photographing the monarchy, he had seen moments of tension, moments of disagreement, moments of human error, but never had he seen a day so deliberately engineered to elevate one faction while casting the institution itself into public doubt. The fallout was immediate and severe. Whatever fragile trust remained within the family was shattered. Bonds that were already strained cracked entirely. Relationships that had survived decades of scrutiny suddenly splintered under the weight of this public spectacle. Once again, the children paid the highest price. Arthur emphasized the heartbreaking reality that the younger generation was losing access to their grandfather, King Charles, and other family members in ways that words alone could not capture. In a family designed for continuity, connection, and legacy, this absence spoke louder than any headline or viral clip ever could. What had begun as glamour, as spectacle, ended in isolation, estrangement, and a profound sense of loss. Arthur described these actions as a declaration of independence, but one that carried an edge of rebellion, a deliberate mockery of the very institution that had provided status, protection, and privilege for generations. The system that had funded the fairy tale, the monarchy itself, was now being openly questioned, challenged, and criticized, even by those who had benefited most from it. Looking back over decades of royal weddings, public appearances, and private celebrations, Arthur didn't hesitate in his assessment. This was the lowest point he had witnessed, not because love or loyalty were absent, but because arrogance, he felt, had shone brighter than compassion, duty, or respect. What should have been a unifying, historic moment became the opening act in a long, messy drama where spectacle consistently overshadowed sacrifice and personal grievance eclipsed collective responsibility. Every carefully planned photograph, every posed smile, every controlled public appearance could not conceal the fractures forming beneath the surface. And Arthur, who had spent nearly half a century recording the inner workings of the monarchy, was there to observe it all. So, dear reader, the next time a royal romance captures global attention, when glittering crowns and fairy tale music dominate the headlines, pause and consider what may be quietly brewing behind the scenes. Crowns, gold, and jewels may appear invincible, but beneath the shimmer lies human vulnerability. Pride, secrecy, and unresolved conflict can fracture even the grandest institutions, quietly eroding them from within. Given Arthur's unique vantage point, did he know anything about the birth of Archie Mountbatten Windsor? Did he share details that went beyond the public narrative? His revelations provide both insight and context for understanding how this new generation of royals approach tradition, privacy, and personal agency. For nearly 50 years, Arthur Edwards has watched history unfold through a lens few could imagine. Since 1977, his camera has captured the British royal family at its most human, its celebrations, its tensions, heartbreaks, and quiet victories. He has witnessed heirs grow into their roles, relationships bend under pressure, and centuries-old traditions collide with the modern world. Edwards isn't simply a photographer, he is a witness to the monarchy itself, a silent recorder of moments most of the world will never see firsthand. So when he spoke about the day Archie was born, it wasn't just another story, it was a revelation, an intimate glimpse into the changing dynamics of a family and an institution at a turning point. On May 6, 2019, the world watched Prince Harry and Meghan Markle welcome their first child. Headlines flashed, cameras clicked, and millions of eyes turned to London. Yet Arthur Edwards was not stationed outside the hospital with the other photographers. He was in Germany, travelling on an official royal tour with Camilla, then the Duchess of Cornwall. Even at a distance, history reached him. What Arthur revealed was extraordinary. He was the very first person to show Camilla a photograph of baby Archie. On the surface, it seemed a small gesture, simply handing someone a photo. But in royal terms, it carried immense significance. He described the period as emotionally complex for Camilla, hinting at layers of feeling that went far beyond simple joy. By 2019, she had endured years of public scrutiny, navigated fragile family dynamics, and maintained her position in a monarchy under unprecedented pressure. Seeing Archie's photo symbolized more than just welcoming a new royal. It reflected the subtle, shifting tides within the family. Archie's birth was remarkable not just for the child himself, but for how Harry and Meghan chose to introduce him. For decades, tradition dictated immediate public appearances. Royals were displayed almost instantly, often on the steps of the Lindo wing at St Mary's Hospital, swaddled for cameras, greeted by cheering crowds. Prince Charles and Princess Diana followed this ritual. William and Kate did the same with their children. Public visibility was paramount. Ceremony and tradition came before personal privacy. Harry and Meghan, however, charted a different course. No staged hospital appearance, no immediate media opportunity. Instead, they waited 2 days before a carefully controlled intimate photo call at Windsor Castle. The setting was quiet, personal, and deliberate, their child presented on their terms. In the context of royal life, it was revolutionary. They were asserting ownership of their story, valuing privacy while gently signalling a shift in expectations for the next generation. By contrast, William and Kate adhered closely to traditional royal customs, introducing each child immediately, swaddled for cameras. The message was clear. Visibility and ceremony remained central to royal duty. Archie's introduction, quiet yet deliberate, suggested that the new generation might strike a different balance, honouring family duty while embracing modern values such as personal space, privacy, and control over one's narrative. For Arthur Edwards, a man who had spent decades documenting repetitive royal customs, the change was unmistakable. He wasn't merely witnessing the birth of a child. He was observing the monarchy itself evolve. The photograph he showed Camilla symbolized more than a newborn. It captured a family in transition, caught between centuries of tradition and the pressures of a changing modern world. Archie's birth was never just a personal milestone. It was a glimpse into the monarchy's future, a quiet start to a new chapter in one of the world's most famous families. And through it all, Arthur Edwards remained the ever-present observer, chronicler, and witness, with eyes that had seen more of the royal family than most could ever imagine. Why had he been so close to the royal family for so long? Because he was more than a photographer. He was a living repository of history, a man whose lens had captured the evolution, triumphs and trials of the Windsors for nearly 50 years. At 86, Arthur Edwards was not just a witness, he was part of the story, one of the longest-serving, most trusted observers of one of the world's most scrutinized families. For 45 years, as the official royal photographer for The Sun, he has spent more time with the Windsors than almost anyone else, quietly chronicling moments that define both a family and an institution. That alone is enough to pique curiosity, but Arthur Edwards' story goes far deeper than tenure or numbers. His career reads like a royal saga spanning decades, a lifetime spent observing history unfold in real time. He has accompanied the monarchy on more than 200 tours across an astonishing 120 countries, travelling from the palaces of Europe to the farthest reaches of Africa. Wherever the royals went, Arthur Edwards was there, camera in hand, patiently observing, waiting for the fleeting gestures, glances, and moments that would later define history. Arthur Edwards' photography goes far beyond ceremonies or official tours. He has captured rare, life-changing royal moments, from 7 weddings and 5 funerals to 7 births. Each image preserves joy, grief, triumph, and new beginnings. Every photograph tells a story, offering intimate glimpses into a world that few will ever witness. These moments, brimming with happiness, sorrow, and tenderness, have been compiled in his new photo book, Behind the Crown: My Life Photographing the Royal Family. But this is not simply a photo album, it is an insider's diary, a rare invitation to step behind the curtain of monarchy. Through Edward's lens, the royals are not just symbols of pageantry and protocol, they are real people with genuine emotions, quirks, and vulnerabilities. Through his photography, we see smiles that are unguarded, glances that speak volumes, and gestures that reveal the humanity behind the crown. What makes Arthur Edwards' story truly compelling is not just the historic events he has captured, but the relationships he has quietly cultivated over decades. While most photographers must maintain a strict professional distance, Edwards has earned trust and respect within the royal household itself. He has navigated the delicate balance of intimacy and discretion, granting him access that few others could ever hope to achieve. The moments he captures are usually private. Small gestures, fleeting expressions, the candid human side of public figures. In doing so, he has created a visual record of royalty that is both historically significant and deeply human. His photographs are more than images. They are narratives. Each click of the shutter tells a story, preserves a fleeting emotion, and captures the essence of life within the palace. Arthur Edwards has an uncanny ability to notice what others overlook. A small laugh shared between family members, a pensive glance during a ceremony, or the quiet gesture of someone lost in thought. His work transforms how we perceive the monarchy, bridging the gap between public spectacle and private reality. Through his lens, the royals are not just distant symbols, they are people. In many ways, Arthur Edwards has helped shape the modern image of the British monarchy. From poised portraits of Queen Elizabeth II to candid, humanizing images of younger generations, his photographs have defined public perception. They have allowed ordinary people to glimpse extraordinary lives, transforming the monarchy from something untouchable and ceremonial into something relatable, emotional, and vividly alive. Behind the Crown also tells the story of Edwards himself, a tale of patience, dedication, and a lifetime of quietly observing moments most people will never see. It reveals how he has managed to witness history while forming genuine connections with those he photographs. In a world where access is everything, Arthur Edwards' story is one of quiet mastery. The mastery of timing, empathy, and knowing when to capture a moment and when to step back. His work reminds us that photography is more than documentation. It is connection. It is narrative, and it can reveal truths that words alone cannot. Through Edward's lens, history becomes personal, and the monarchy becomes human. For 45 years, he has not merely taken pictures, He has stood at the intersection of tradition, history, and humanity, bearing witness to moments that define a family, a nation, and the world's fascination with royalty. In the pages of Behind the Crown, Edwards invites us into this world, a world of glittering ceremonies, intimate family moments, and the quiet drama of real life behind the pomp and pageantry. It is a story of trust, longevity, and an eye that sees beyond the obvious. Most importantly, it is a story that reminds us that behind every crown, behind every royal title, there are people whose lives are just as rich, complex, and fascinating as our own. For decades, Arthur Edwards has been there to capture it all. But perhaps the most extraordinary part of Edwards' career is not just the moments he photographs, but the stories behind them, the context, the emotion, and the lives unfolding quietly beyond the cameras. He has watched the monarchy face public scrutiny, personal tragedy, and the evolving pressures of modern life. He has seen joy and heartbreak play out in real time, often in moments so fleeting they might have gone unnoticed if not for his attentive eye. He has observed how family dynamics shift behind closed doors, how loyalty, love, and duty sometimes clash, and how tradition adapts or resists the winds of change. Through decades of work, Arthur Edwards has not only documented royal history, he has witnessed the human side of history itself, the laughter of children at a garden party, the quiet contemplation of a monarch reflecting on decades of reign, the first steps of a newborn prince, all captured with care, patience, and an almost invisible presence. His photographs allow the public to connect with royalty not as abstract figures, but as people living complex, emotional, and fascinating lives. And perhaps this is why his insights matter so much. Through his camera, we do not just see what happened, we feel it. We sense the weight of history, the pressures of public life, and the enduring humanity of those who wear the crown. Edwards' revelations are not simply about events. They are about understanding, perspective, and the quiet truths behind the spectacle. So, what do you make of Arthur Edwards' decades-long observations and the intimate glimpses he shares in Behind the Crown? How does it change the way you see the royals, their lives, and their struggles? Let us know your thoughts below. Share your reflections, your surprises, or even your favorite royal moment caught through his lens. And if you enjoyed this inside look at a world few have seen, make sure to like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe so you won't miss the next story from Behind the Crown, where history and humanity meet in ways that continue to astonish the world.